Imagine cleaning your 14-year-old son's room one day only to find the body of a missing girl under his bed. On November 13th, 1998, Joshua Phillips was playing outside his home in Jacksonville, Florida with his 8-year-old neighbor Maddie Clifton until she mysteriously vanished. Hundreds of volunteers joined search parties, camera crews flocked to the suburbs, and Clifton's parents continually begged for any information on her whereabouts on news outlets. A week after her disappearance, on November 10th, Phillips' mother was cleaning his room when she noticed his waterbed was leaking, or so she thought. When she took a closer look, she found Clifton's body and ran outside to alert an officer as Clifton's parents were outside wrapping up a televised interview in hopes of finding their daughter. So, what happened? Joshua Phillips' father, Steve Phillips, was a computer specialist who was incredibly strict and violent towards his family. He became even more furious if other children were in his house without him present, even more so if he'd been drinking, which he often would. That day, Phillips' parents weren't home yet and he was playing baseball when Maddie Clifton asked if she could play with him. When police questioned Phillips about what happened, he told them that he accidentally hit Maddie with a baseball while playing and she started crying and screaming. He was afraid that he would get in trouble by his father and Clifton wouldn't stop crying, so he struck her in the face with his bat to get her to stop, but the truth was much darker. Clifton had been bludgeoned and strangled, but that didn't end her life. He shoved her unconscious body under his waterbed before his parents got home. At 5 p.m. is when Clifton's parents reported that their daughter was missing. Before nightfall, Phillips removed his mattress and used a utility knife, stabbing Clifton 7 times in the waterbed and slept on top of her for an entire week. While joining in her search with his family, police were stunned as they had searched the Phillips home 3 times but mistaken the stench of Clifton's corpse for the smell of several birds that the family kept as pets. His trial took place on July 6, 1999 and only lasted 2 days before finding him guilty of first-degree murder. On August 26, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Him and his mother have been trying to get him free since, and there's supposed to be a review of his sentence happening sometime this year or next. Do you think he should be given a chance at freedom? My boyfriend is expecting a child with his ex-wife. How do I navigate this? I, female 33, have been dating Justin, male 40, for a few months, and things just got complicated. He has 2 younger children with his ex-wife, female 39, Casey. They separated early into COVID, not terribly long after the second child was born. For the sake of the children, finances, COVID, etc., they continue to live in the same home. He likens it to a roommate arrangement in separated bedrooms. They've both had relationships with other people since separating, and for the most part, have been amicable. Casey has now announced that she's pregnant, early into the 2nd trimester. She was pregnant before Justin and I started dating, but she's just now told him. He had provided sperm samples in the past when they were trying for another child. Justin was not aware that Casey was trying to get pregnant at all, or that she was using his sperm. He loves children, so he is of course very happy. So now my boyfriend is having a child with his ex-wife. So far, I haven't had an issue with them still living together. I don't agree with it necessarily, the misleading of their children, but I do understand why they're doing it. He had told me before the pregnancy announcement that he was still planning on living with her for some time. He likes how their arrangement has been for the kids, and I was fine with that. I was not planning to rush into moving in with him. Should our relationship progress as it has been, normally, I would not be concerned about looking so far ahead early into the relationship, but this situation is forcing me to. I'm trying to determine whether this relationship can work. By the way, she works in the medical field, which is how the specimens were accessible. What should I do? How can I navigate my husband's eating habits? I'm curled up on the floor of my bathroom and I've realized I've hit a breaking point. My 32 female husband, 34 male, has always been a big eater. He's a big gym goer, so him consuming an upwards of 9,000 to 10,000 calories a day has always been his norm. His parents even said that it nearly bankrupted their family trying to feed him through puberty. He's still very lean. It's never caused issues until I started residency. We share groceries, and on my days off, we try and get out to the grocery store together for a big grocery run. Unfortunately, due to a hospitalization as a child caused by a major food handling issue in my school, me and almost 100 other students were hospitalized. I'm working through strong aversions to unsafe foods. I'm working with a psychiatrist about it, and have been since I was a child, and have my safe foods, which are generally dry pantry goods or very specific items otherwise. We buy huge quantities. Our grocery bill works out to be about $1,000 a month. We don't have kids. Recently, all of this food has been disappearing within 5 to 6 days. He drinks about a gallon of milk a day, half a box of cereal, an entire package of chicken, multiple large tubs of yogurt, and entire blocks of cheese. This doesn't even include his midnight snacks. This is one day. I can sometimes get in a bite or 2 of the food that I bought before I find the empty packages in the pantry the next day. It's almost insult to injury that he puts empty packages back instead of in the garbage. It's not uncommon that I come home to an empty fridge. Most days, I'm too exhausted coming home to even bother ordering takeout. I've fallen asleep too many times on the couch just to wake up the next day with the food untouched on the front door mat. My only saving grace is that my residency program pays for meals while we're on shift, so at least I get 2 to 3 meals a day at the hospital. That is, if I have a chance to eat on shift. I begged my husband to get seen by a doctor. I was concerned about a thyroid issue, an eating disorder, or even insane diagnosis like Prader-Willi. and he dragged his feet before inevitably going. Nothing awry with his lab work by any means, which totally stunned me. He hasn't gained any weight. He isn't binging and purging, at least from what he's told me, and he doesn't display any signs that he would be purging. I asked if he felt upset or stressed with my long work hours. I work around 80 hours a week, and he said he was coping fine. The biggest issue I'm facing is that I'm constantly coming home to an empty fridge and cabinet. The best I can do is catch up with salt and pepper because of how efficiently he clears out any food item. He's tried to cook for me in the past, but gets fidgety waiting for me to come home. The most recent example is I have him preparing 2 large pans of lasagna. He ate it all in one sitting before I even got home. Even groceries I explicitly bought for myself and my husband knows are my safe foods get eaten because he forgot or thought I wouldn't eat them anyway. He does have severe ADHD. He is getting medicated, so the forgetfulness I can sometimes forgive, but I've even started designating specific shelves and drawers to be mine or putting up signs on the food that I want to be saved. But it doesn't stop him. I just want to be able to have a snack when I get home without wondering if the cabinet will be empty. My next step was to look at putting a fridge in our basement with a lock, so I have my own safe stash of food, but I shouldn't have to go down that extreme path. I seriously wonder if a locked fridge would even deter him. I'm at a total impasse and I don't know what to do. I've asked my colleagues both for medical and personal advice, and they've expressed concerns that he's doing this maliciously if we can't find a reason otherwise. He's been the light of my life and has been a fantastic partner in so many ways outside of the food situation, so I'm at a loss. But coming home today to find the one bag of veggie straws I asked him to save for me gone just broke me. Am I in the wrong for not telling my husband's family that I speak their language? My husband, Peter 29 male, and I 27 female have been married for about 3 years. We have 1 child together and I was pregnant with our second. I'm Western Canadian while he's from Germany. We lived in Canada for a long time, but because of inflation, moving back to Germany seemed like a better option for us. We bought a nice house in Hanover where Peter is from. The day after our flights to Germany, we all visited Peter's family. This was the second time I've seen them. The first was at our wedding. They greeted us and brought us inside of the house, fussing over my son. We had dinner and soon left the house, wanting to settle into our new home. We visited Peter's family often for the next few months. But I had started to realize that they would sometimes speak about me in German. They would make rude comments on my hair and my makeup, question my fashion choices, and overall were just very unkind to me. They also said mean things about my pregnant belly, which I was already insecure about. I ended up talking to my husband about this. I told him that I didn't like the way that they were treating me. I said I hated how every choice I made was judged. He told me that he would talk to his family. The next time we went to his parents' house, there were no more mean comments. For about 3 months, it was like nothing ever happened. I gave birth to a perfect baby girl and we named her Lilith. Peter's family was very upset when they heard the name. If you didn't know, Lilith means ghost or of the night. We didn't pick this name because of its meaning. My middle name is Lilith, along with my mom's, my grandma's, and even my great-grandma's. For a while, I didn't visit my in-laws. I didn't want to hear them talk about how I shouldn't have named my daughter Lilith, but yesterday we saw them again. It was my mother-in-law's birthday. As soon as we showed up, things started to go badly. Everybody wanted to hold Lilith, which made my mother-in-law upset because people weren't paying attention to her and made me overwhelmed. I was going through a pretty bad postpartum depression and it was still pretty early to see people. I let people look at her but declined when anyone asked to hold her. During dinner, I heard my sister-in-law talking to my mother-in-law in German. I heard her complaining about how she couldn't hold my baby. My sister-in-law even had the audacity to call me, and I quote, a fat, ugly, hokey addict. I turned to my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and told them off in German. I basically said that I've always known what they said about me, but calling me names was the last straw. I also mentioned how I've known German for almost all my life. The table instantly blew up. People were yelling at me because apparently this was all my fault. I left with Peter and we haven't talked to them since. So, am I in the wrong? Am I in the wrong for canceling all of our streaming services to hire a housekeeper without asking my husband first? I'm 28 female, and me and my husband, 30 male, just welcomed our first baby almost 3 months ago. Understandably, it's been a huge adjustment for both of us. She's still not sleeping through the night, and we're both back to working full time. We have always split the household responsibilities 50-50. We just help where needed, and it's always worked out well. Lately, my husband has been doing the chores terribly, and I've had to come behind him to fix things or clean them again. For example, he cleaned bottles the other night, and they were cleaned so poorly that I had to do them again. He dropped pump parts down the disposable and then ran in and ruined them. There have been several clothes that he didn't clean after a blowout and they're now ruined. There are many more instances like this. I've confronted him a few times, letting him know that we all make mistakes and I know that we're both tired, but it feels like he's not even trying to do things well. He just keeps saying that he's so tired and is having a hard time working and taking care of the house and baby. I do sympathize with this as I'm also working, pumping, recovering, and taking care of the house and baby. The final straw for me was when he told me to go to sleep and he put up the milk that I just pumped and finished the dishes. I was so grateful until I got up and realized that the milk had been sitting on the counter and at this point was no good anymore. He said that he was sorry and he put on a show to relax for a bit before doing the dishes and fell asleep. The next day, I decided to cancel all of our streaming services, PlayStation Plus, and our theme park passes in order to hire a housekeeper. I figured if he's too tired to do basic household chores, then a housekeeper is necessary. If he's too tired to put up milk, then he's too tired to play video games or for us to go to the theme park. We still have cable and the PlayStation games and can do other activities outside of the local theme park. He blew up at me saying that I had no right to do that and was furious. I thought I was doing us a favor so that we can get more sleep and not worry as much about household tasks. So am I in the wrong for hiring a housekeeper without asking? Am I in the wrong for demanding that my niece or her parents pay me back for hundreds of dollars of perfume that she stole from me? I have a perfume collection that I started when I was a teenager slinging burritos at my first job. I have over 400 bottles at this point. I take great pride in my collection. I'm also happy to give people samples of most of my bottles. Let them sample a spray or two, give some bottles as gifts, etc. What I have a huge fucking issue with is my 17-year-old niece coming into my home under the guise of walking my dog, decanting bottles on her own, and selling the samples to her little friends. She thinks that because I have so many bottles, I wouldn't notice some missing or getting massive dents in them. While Little Miss Entrepreneur failed to realize that her private Instagram wasn't friends only or whatever, and I saw each and every fucking story with each price and sample she had. I tallied that shit up and got a pretty good estimate based on the cost per ounce. Thankfully, she mostly picked TikTok famous perfumes like Bianco Latte and Escapade Gourmand and didn't go for the most rare niche perfumes. She did snatch an entire 2.5 ounce bottle of Baccarat Rouge, though, which runs $300 plus at most retailers, as well as full bottles of perfumes you can only get at Sephora, like Marc Jacobs Daisy, Burberry Her Elixir, Flower Bomb, etc. Petty or not, I printed out the entire list of what she had taken, price estimate, and handed it off to my sister, her mom. I said that I expect to be paid back, in full, and of course her fucking sneaky little ass is never allowed in my home again. My sister got super pissy with me, going on about how my niece is just a kid, kids make mistakes, etc. I said yes, kids make mistakes, and this is a great way for my niece to learn from hers. Their argument is that now the money that she was going to use for a car has to go towards paying me back. I don't care. She's lucky that I have no interest in involving police, small claims, or any of that. But am I in the wrong because she is a teenager?